They can't define it. They're putting all these rules on us. We shouldn't even allow them to use the term anti-Semitism. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites.
You were there last night. There's a current ban on you and others from Colombia, dated from last week, saying that you are considered persona non grata on all Columbia University-owned property due to alarming and concerning behaviour. So why were you back there?
I wasn't inside the gates of Columbia. I was outside of Columbia. I wasn't inside the gates of Columbia. I was outside of Columbia.
I wasn't inside the gates of Columbia. I was outside of Columbia.
So why were you back there?
I wasn't inside the gates of Columbia. I was outside of Columbia. And, you know, I'm able to protest outside of Columbia in support of the students as a New Yorker, just like New Yorkers have been consistently showing outside of the gates of Columbia in support of the students, even before they launched the Gaza Solidarity encampment. My organization, within our lifetime, mobilized in support of Columbia students from Jewish Voice for Peace and from Students for Justice in Palestine, who were both suspended months ago. And, you know, we're just continuing that tradition, that support from the community to the students. So we had a protest that started at NYU, went to the New School, made a stop at FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology. We made our way over to Columbia by train and then ended at CUNY. So just showing solidarity to all of the encampments.
But it's not quite as straightforward as just showing solidarity. Mobs inside and outside the campus have been chanting Intifada. And anyone who knows the history of the conflict between Palestine and Israel knows what Intifada means. It means a violent uprising. They've been chanting from the river to the sea, which of course involves the eradication of Israel. We've seen Jewish students being harassed by the mob. We've seen Jewish professors not being allowed in to teach because of fears for their safety. We've seen others being held in effective captivity following the violent breaking in of an historic building. All of this, a lot of it is criminal, from trespass to vandalism to actually potentially kidnapping people if you're not letting them out when you break in.
So no kidnappings have happened.
Well, hang on.
No kidnappings have happened.
Well, hang on.
No kidnappings have happened.
Well, hang on.
No kidnappings have happened.
Well, hang on. I'm just saying potentially it could be categorized as that. We've seen others being held in effective captivity following the violent breaking in of an historic building. All of this, a lot of it is criminal, from trespass to vandalism to actually potentially kidnapping people if you're not letting them out when you break in.
So no kidnappings have happened.
Well, hang on. I'm just saying potentially it could be categorized as that. So my question for you is, why would you support all this? Why do you support chanting about a violent uprising? Why are Jewish students being harassed in this manner? Why would you support the wanton vandalism involved in smashing into an historic building?
So I'm going to try to answer this in the order of everything you said. First of all, Intifada means shaking off in Arabic, or uprising. It's not just used in the Palestinian context, but against people fighting against oppression everywhere. And the City University of New York, where I was a student in undergrad and for law school, actually investigated SJP for the use of the word Intifada in previous years. They released a report in 2016 that is public right now. You can find it online, that clarifies that Intifada is not an anti-Semitic
There have been two
slur,
Intifada. Hang on, there have been two Intifadas. The
oppression.
first and second Intifada in the conflict. In the last 30 years have been these two infamous intifadas, which led to the deaths of many, many people on both sides. Both were violent uprisings. So when people
No,
chant about
Intifada started
when you have
as
a pro-Palestinian, when a pro-Palestinian group
it started
chants,
as boycotts.
hang
It
on.
started as strikes. Are you going to let
Yeah.
me respond?
Yeah, I'm
Because
gonna-
you
I'm
actually
gonna
made a lot
clarify-
of accusations.
Well,
and I'm going to try to respond to all of them in order.
Okay, well, are you
So
going
not going back and forth.
Are you
on
going to
every
try and
point.
deny that either Intifada was violent?
I believe that the Israeli colonizers, the Zionists, made it violent by attacking peaceful protests, just like we saw the NYPD attack protesters at CUNY and at Columbia that made the situation that wasn't previously violent. Just like we saw the NYPD attack protesters at CUNY and at Columbia that made the situation that wasn't previously violent. Just like we saw the NYPD attack protesters at CUNY and at Columbia that made the situation that wasn't previously violent.
So I just got out of the Palestine encampment. I was protecting the encampment from the Zionists. They tried to take a barricade from us, and when I held on, they pulled me into a circle of them, and they started beating me on the back. They threw a rock at my eye. They threw a hammer at my leg, and they slashed my arm, and then they pepper sprayed me in the eyes. So this was with little to no provocation. The Zionists are trying to agitate the Palestine encampment, and I'm not even I'm not even close to the worst of it. I saw 19-year-old girls with their face completely bloodied and beaten. It is actually it's almost tear-jerking how violent these Zionists have been to the peaceful protesters on the Palestine encampment. And while you might think that I'm exaggerating, there is no comparison between the two sides as to who has been more violent and who has done more agitating.
And all the acts of terrorism perpetrated by pro-Palestinians against Israelis during the two intifadas, what do you think of those?
I'm not here to debate the first and the second intifada with you. I've told you the definition of the word. You can
But that
leave it
is
at
why
that
when
and allow me to
when
address the other things that you brought on.
you're being disingenuous. When pro-Palestinian groups outside of New York University chant about intifada, they know what they're doing, and Jewish people know what they're doing. They are invoking the first and second
we
intifada,
don't. I don't know what
which
you say
involved
they're doing,
which
because
involved
every
a lot of
pro-Palestinian
violence
protester
and a lot of terrorism.
has been chanting intifada for decades. So this, and let's go back. Let's go to the second phrase you say, from the river to the sea.
Yeah.
Now they want to make a problem with that. Any chant that we say, there's this accusation of anti-Semitism. Any chant that we say, there's this accusation of anti-Semitism.
Any chant that we say, there's this accusation of anti-Semitism.
For 30 years, I am very consistent, and I'm saying something very simple. This conflict is not on the lack of a state of Palestinian, but the existence of a state, the Jewish state. Every area that we evacuate, we receive terrible terror against that. It happened in South Lebanon, in Gaza, and also Judea and Samaria, which we did it. And therefore, I clarify that in any other arrangement, in the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea.
So first of all, so they can't even define what a Jew is. I think that's an important definition that needs to be made if they're going to be passing laws that say you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of something we're making up. I mean, we already have these codes that say you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race, color, and national origin. Okay, but that doesn't include religion. It says right now it doesn't include religion, but they're going to make it up, and they're making it up as they go. This is outrageous. We shouldn't allow them to do this. We should demand that there be a common definition for Jew. What is a Jew? There needs to be a definition to this if they're going to be making laws that hinder our lives and that infringe on our First Amendment rights. They better damn well tell us what the hell a Jew is. And they better damn well tell us what anti-Semitism is. And it can't be any criticism of a foreign country. If you criticize this particular foreign country, that is anti-Semitism, which is a form of racism and against our laws. Could you imagine if we made those laws about China or about Iran? And then we always hear this, well, Israel's the only Jewish nation. So you have a problem with Jews because you have a problem with the only Jewish nation. Well, Iran is the only Iranian nation. China is the only Chinese nation. Russia is the only Russian nation. I mean, what are we? Vietnam's the only Vietnamese nation. This is just insane. This is insane. It doesn't make any sense at all. But so we're supposed to we're just being told that anti-Semitism is now criticizing Israel. Anti-Semitism is anything they want it to be. They can't even define it. They admit in this bill that they've passed through the House that there's really truly no actual protection for Jews, but they're just making it up as they go because they want to say, well, but Semites, which we shouldn't even be using that word anymore because most Jews who practice the religion of Judaism or who are culturally Jewish, even if they don't practice the Jewish religion, but they're culturally Jewish, like many are culturally Christian. Many of us celebrate Christmas, but we're not Christian. That's cultural Christianity. It is what it is, right? They can't define it. They're putting all these rules on us. We shouldn't even allow them to use the term anti-Semitism. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites.
Any chant that we say, there's this accusation of anti-Semitism because every single pro-Palestinian activist has been accused of anti-Semitism as a way to silence them, even though just, you mentioned Jewish students before. So many of these Jewish students are standing with us.
Hey guys, so there's a thing happening where, members of the commentariat, people who are commenting on the protests on now dozens of college campuses across the country are, I don't know how else you can describe it other than bullying the students on these campuses by claiming that these protests, and I think out of a genuine fear that these protests will have a sort of 1968 effect, the 1968 anti-Vietnam War protests that roiled the Chicago Democratic Convention and really, cost Lyndon Baines Johnson the presidency because he ended up withdrawing. Hubert Humphrey ended up being the nominee. Long story short, essentially Vietnam drove Johnson off the ticket and Nixon ended up becoming president. And I think so out of a genuine fear that is going to play out again, a fear that's being fueled on purpose by people like Christopher Rufo, the fake moral panic guy from critical race theory and DEI, and people on the right who are trying to glom onto these protests and push, the narrative that this is a reason to, I guess in their mind, vote for Donald Trump, who has an even worse record when it comes to Palestinians and Israelis and any idea of peace. But anyway, I think out of a genuine fear that a sort of 1968 moment is building, you're starting to see people in the Democratic side commentariat essentially try to bully and bludgeon these young people on these college campuses to essentially kind of order them to stop caring about what's happening in Gaza. Stop caring about the 34,000 people who are dead, who are mainly women and children. Stop protesting it. Stop talking about it. Stop being mad about it. Stop feeling any way about it. And trying to bully these students into shutting up and accepting that whatever it is that the Israeli government, which is a foreign government, a nation state government, does is fine, and you've got to accept it because otherwise you're going to hurt Joe Biden, and that's the narrative. And I get where that's coming from out of a fear of a Trump presidency, which is something genuinely to fear. But that is happening at the same time that the leader of that nation state, Bibi Netanyahu, is making English language videos stating that not only are these protests inherently anti-Semitic, even though a lot of the students who are participating in the protests are themselves Jewish. A lot of the students who are participating in the protests are themselves Jewish.
A lot of the students who are participating
in the protests are themselves Jewish.
So this is the largest gathering of Jews in solidarity with Palestinians in the history of the Midwest. And we're here in view of the urgency of the moment, which is a moment of genocide happening actively in the Gaza Strip, forced displacement, ethnic cleansing, a humanitarian crisis. And we're here as Jews to say not in our name. We know that as Jews, we're doubly implicated. As American Jews, we're doubly implicated. We're implicated as Americans because our tax dollars and our leaders are directly supporting the war crimes and genocide happening in Gaza, and we're implicated as Jews because those perpetrating these crimes are claiming to do so in our name, for our safety and for our well-being. And so we're here to demand a ceasefire now, call on our leaders to do everything they can to support that and to not give another dime, another weapon to this effort.
The two organizations being banned from Columbia, Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace. The Columbia University chapters of both of those organizations were banned. That's part of what started the protests. One of those is Jewish Voice for Peace. But, so you've got the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, claiming that these protests are in and of themselves anti-Semitic because they're critical of Israel, a nation state's policies. And then the second piece of it, you've got some American politicians, including some Democrats, saying the same thing, even though, some Jewish politicians like Bernie Sanders are saying the opposite, saying that's not true.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned, and condemned unequivocally. But that's not what happened. The response of several university presidents was shameful. Now, fortunately, state, local, federal officials, many of them have responded differently.
And then the second piece of it, you've got some American politicians, including some Democrats, saying the same thing, even though, some Jewish politicians like Bernie Sanders are saying the opposite, saying that's not true.
The Foreign Assistance Act is clear. No U.S. assistance may be provided to any country that, quote, prohibits or otherwise restricts, directly or indirectly, the transport or delivery of United States humanitarian assistance, end of quote. Israel is clearly in violation of that law. What Israel is doing today in Gaza and the West Bank is a defining moment for Americans, because we are directly complicit in this horrific war. The U.S. military is not dropping 2,000-pound bombs on civilian apartment buildings, but we are supplying those bombs. The U.S. is not blocking the borders and preventing food, water, and medical supplies from getting to desperate people, but we have supplied billions of dollars to the Netanyahu government, which is doing just that. The U.S. is not annexing occupied Palestinian land, but it is providing political protection for the Israeli government as it does that.
This is utter nonsense, Piers. Can I just answer the question?
Okay, check. Yep.
You got genocide taking place. You got IDF terrorism taking place. You can't say a mumbling word about 12 universities that's been leveled to the ground. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of professors have been killed. Students have been killed. You're a journalist.
Yes.
Have you talked about the 112 journalists who have been killed, brother?
Yes, I have done.
You just said lies.
Well, hang on. Well, Cornel, I actually...
So
Cornel, hang on. Cornel. Cornel.
Unfairly.
Cornel.
And then you just start lying. You start lying, man. It's ridiculous.
Cornel,
man.
I'm not lying about anything.
No, you are. I agree with Cornel West completely. You're totally, utterly lying through your framing. You're totally, utterly lying through your framing.
You're totally, utterly lying through your framing.
All the vandalism about one hall, and you hardly can say a mumbling word about universities, libraries gone completely, schoolrooms gone completely. You see how truncated and narrow your framework is? You're just lying, man. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Okay. When you say lying, what you're trying to imply that I don't care about the other stuff you've just mentioned.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's not a lie.
That's definitely right.
Will not have the same value as an Israeli life. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me bring in Cenk. Let me bring in Cenk here. Let me bring in Cenk. Let me bring in Cenk here. Let me bring in Cenk. Let me bring in Cenk here. Let me bring in Cenk. I don't believe that you think it's right that Jewish students should be intimidated and harassed on a campus.
You come right back to the thing again.
Can I just answer this for
We are
God's
debating
sake?
the protests, okay?
Come on, brother. Come on, man.
I don't think it's right. They should be subjected to intimidation.
Okay, Piers.
Nobody thinks it's right. Nobody thinks that's right. It's not
Cornel,
right.
let Cenk speak and I'll come back to you.
Girl has a hall named after her because she and 15,000 other children have been killed by the IDF terrorists that you don't even call terrorists, but you can call the students terrorists. That's not any double standards, man. That's just outright mendacity, hiding criminality on your show, and you're supposed to be uncensored, concerned about the truth.
Well, you just said I called them terrorists. I haven't called them terrorists. That, ironically, is a lie. Cenk, I want to bring you in. You're getting very angry about this too. Just to be clear, I am expressing an opinion that what has happened at Columbia has crossed a line. And that if I'm a Jewish student there, I think it's completely outrageous. I'm being intimidated and harassed for the actions of Israel's government thousands of miles away. That doesn't mean I don't have very strong views about what's happening in Gaza, because you know that I do. So where is my lie in all this?
Yeah, Piers, I've just listened to you for 20 minutes frame the issue in a purely 100% Israeli propaganda way. So if you say, hey, listen, Jewish students shouldn't be harassed or attacked, of course I agree. I've got
you
Jewish
agree with
family
me, so why have I lied?
Yeah, no. Stop interrupting. But what you don't talk about is you say from the river to the sea is an unacceptable change. Did you mention to the audience in these last 20 minutes that Benjamin Netanyahu actually said it?
In the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea. In the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea.
In the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea.
You say from the river to the sea is an unacceptable change. Did you mention to the audience in these last 20 minutes that Benjamin Netanyahu actually said it recently? Not only that, he's actually doing it. He's in the middle of wiping out the Palestinians from the river to the sea. That is the grotesque violence. He has slaughtered 25,000 women and children. They were all innocent. So when Hamas kills 860 innocent Israeli civilians, I call them out and I say that is terrible. But when Israel slaughters 25,000 women and children, we're saying, oh, I don't like a pro-Palestinian chant. A chant? That's what we're concerned about. And now you turn to the violence that has happened on college campuses. There is one case of overwhelming violence, and that happened last night at UCLA. And it was pro-Israeli protesters that violently attacked the peace protesters that didn't do anything. They attacked an old lady and said, oh yeah, good luck trying to defend yourself, old lady. These are vicious, vigilante thugs. And they have done more violence than all of the peace protesters in the country combined. Where are the arrests? Where's the outrage? Where's the indignation? You pretend that you care about protecting students, but you only care about protecting one side, whereas the other side is assaulted.
No, I don't actually. No, because
and debased and humiliated.
Okay, let me respond.
And all you want to do is cancel their speech. You're part of cancel culture, and admit it right now.
Can I
You're
respond?
talking about protesting people.
Can I respond?
Americans.
Can I respond?
Americans.
By the way.
Okay, this is not the United States of Israel. This is not the United States of Israel.
This is not the United States of Israel.
You say from the river to the sea is an unacceptable change. Did you mention to the audience in these last 20 minutes that Benjamin Netanyahu actually said it recently? Not only that, he's actually doing it. He's in the middle of wiping out the Palestinians from the river to the sea. That is the grotesque violence. He has slaughtered 25,000 women and children. They were all innocent. So when Hamas kills 860 innocent Israeli civilians, I call them out and I say that is terrible. But when Israel slaughters 25,000 women and children, we're saying, oh, I don't like a pro-Palestinian chant. A chant? That's what we're concerned about. And now you turn to the violence that has happened on college campuses. There is one case of overwhelming violence, and that happened last night at UCLA. And it was pro-Israeli protesters that violently attacked the peace protesters that didn't do anything. They attacked an old lady and said, oh yeah, good luck trying to defend yourself, old lady. These are vicious, vigilante thugs. And they have done more violence than all of the peace protesters in the country combined. Where are the arrests? Where's the outrage? Where's the indignation? You pretend that you care about protecting students, but you only care about protecting one side, whereas the other side is assaulted.
No, I don't actually. No, because if
debased and humiliated.
Okay, let me respond.
And all you want to do is cancel their speech. You're part of cancel culture and admit it right now.
Can I
You're
respond?
talking about protesting people.
Can I respond?
Americans.
Can I respond?
Americans.
By the way,
okay, this is not the United States of Israel.
Fine.
America.
All right, you made
Americans
your point.
To protest a foreign government.
Okay, let me respond. Just to be clear.
You've lost the right wing.
Just
you've
to
lost
be clear.
The left wing. You've lost America. America's not going to stand here and let Israel
You can keep
dictate
shouting or we can have a
who's allowed
debate.
to speak and who's going to be arrested.
All right, you can keep shouting.
I gave you 20 minutes to do propaganda,
Okay,
Piers. Go ahead now.
It's not propaganda. I have many views about all of this. We're talking specifically about the protests at Columbia, which I think have crossed a line. By the way, you talk about cancel culture. I'm entitled to my view without you and Dr. West screaming liar, genocide supporter, and all this other bullshit.
Okay, you condemn the UCLA pro-Israel thugs.
Let me make it clear.
You condemn them. I'm doing the same thing you are.
Wait a minute.
Do you condemn them?
Wait a minute.
Or are you pro-violence?
Can I answer the question? If this was Jewish students that were breaking into this building violently...
No, you don't have to go with a hypothetical.
No, sorry, I am going to go with a hypothetical because you're trying to make out that somehow I'm only doing this because I'm pro-Israel's government. I'm not pro-Israel's government. What I am pro is the safety of Jewish students being protected because they are not responsible for the actions of an Israel government thousands of miles away. They are entitled, having paid $400,000 for their education.
But you say no, you don't want to protect the peace protest.
I don't think mob rules should be allowed to go on. So when you talk about this is a private university campus, they are entitled to not have their buildings desecrated in this manner, and they are entitled eventually to have the police remove them.
Be honest. When they were doing it in a public space, everybody in media, in American media, said, "How dare they do it in a public space? They do it in a private place." You go, "How dare they do it in a private place?"
No, you shouldn't be breaking into buildings full stop.
You know what? When Martin Luther King in Selma, Alabama, crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. You know what they said? How dare they interrupt the bridge? How dare they go in a public place? How dare those protesters? Civil rights leaders should know their role, should know their place, boy. That's what people like everyone in American media is saying right now to the people in favor of not slaughtering any more Palestinians.
What's your thoughts? Please be respectful with your comments. Also, please click the like, click the notification bell, and subscribe to this channel.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons. For real, and these were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10.